North Carolina is a bigger state than most, so we have a pretty sophisticated emergency response team. But here's the thing, we don't get a huge storm every year. The country does. It doesn't make sense for each state to have a fully staffed emergency response team because they may not have a storm for 5 years or 10 years, but we know the country will. So let's have that expertise in the federal government. But, right?
Yeah,
it's just common sense.
I know, but common sense ain't so common. That's the problem that we're facing with. No, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what we're talking about. You know, I still don't know if they've even officially declared an emergency as it relates to what happened in Missouri since this administration has been in right there in my hometown of St. Louis, the tornadoes that devastated that area. I know that there were concerns about FEMA's response then, and the president seemingly not really wanting to help out the state of Missouri, which is a red state. We know that his former press secretary over Arkansas, she called and said, hey, former boss, we need some money down here. We know Arkansas ain't got that much money either, right? Like, and we know that he was not necessarily looking too kindly upon them. And so even when it comes to red states, he's not really unleashing all of the resources. And the question becomes, well, what you holding on to the money for? Right? Like, what are you doing with the money?
Right.
Is it because you want to make sure that we've got more, you know, alligator Alcatrazes? Like, what is it? Because people are hurting. And I don't care who's in the White House. You talk about when you were the lieutenant governor of Maryland. I'm sure that it never crossed your mind that the only way that you would get resources is if there was someone who was a Republican that was at the helm.
That's right.
That is not how the federal government should work. That's not how any of us should work. When someone is elected, they are elected as the president of these United States, and therefore you should be able to call them up. And yes, we should have expertise because there are going to be different weather events that hit all over the country at all times, and these are the experts. But
welcome back, guys. How are you guys doing? Thank you for tuning in. Let's jump right into it. Yes, that was Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She knows how to speak to the people when she is given the platform. And for those of us that might not know her, she's so popular, by the way, but you know, just for some of us that might not know her, she is a Democrat congresswoman representing a district in Texas. We all know Texas is red. Red means GOP, but she is a Democrat, and how she managed to get that, that seat speaks to who she is. That yes, she is speaking to both Republicans and Democrats, and even independent. We all remember the flooding that happened in Texas some days ago that took a lot of lives, including children. That was heartbreaking. And she's not just letting this administration off the hook about FEMA. We know that some month ago when this administration just, took power, they let go of a lot of professionals. And now the professionals are needed. You know what I mean? And I'm going to be playing the clips that was played on this program. Our President Donald Trump used to talk about FEMA before, and now he is talking right now. Then we are going to have more comments.
Federal government is doing a very bad job. They are not doing the job. They don't have people there. They don't have the people. Kamala wined and dined in San Francisco, and all of the people in North Carolina, no helicopters, no rescue. I just got back from a tour of the suffering and devastation in Louisiana. Obama ought to get off the golf course and get down there.
Just a quick note to you and to our viewers after his trip to Texas. President Trump is heading back to his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey.
Yeah, I can see that President Donald Trump was so passionate about FEMA. He was so ready and quick to call out Democrat governments anytime natural disaster happen under the Democrat. And now that he is the president, I want y'all to listen to how he is calling out FEMA right now about the flooding that happened in Texas.
I have to tell you, the people here, first responders, the sheriff's office, all of the police, law enforcement, they've done an unbelievable job. Everyone sees what an incredible job the governor did.
Yeah, I can hear the change in his tone, and I think that is what a lot of people are focusing on. Like, it shouldn't be this way, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. When a natural disaster happens, the blame cannot be put on any government, especially when we say it is natural. But the blame should now be put on the government if the resources were not available, if the resources were not given on time, just like how Jasmine Crockett explains it.
Talk about it.
Right.
You know, I serve on the Doge committee. This letter was co-led by Greg Kassar, who also serves on oversight and is from Texas. We need to understand, what was the impact? What does it look like at NOAA? If you've got it down to bare bones, were they able to actually get the information that they needed? And was it just a matter that there was no one there to get that information out? And from Commerce, we want to understand, as it relates to alarms and systems and warning systems, were there people in place to actually warn people? It doesn't seem like any of that existed.
Congresswoman, I am old enough to remember when a natural disaster would strike this country, and it would actually be a unifying moment, and you would have a leader at the national level who would come forward and remind us that this was a time to come together as Americans. It strikes me that this president's response to natural disasters, to crises, is very often bifurcated by whether or not he is talking about red state leadership or blue state leadership.
I think she put that perfectly well, that natural disasters should not have anything to do with whether you are Republicans or Democrats. If natural disaster happen in Republican state and you are a Democrat president, you should go all out to help the Republican state. Same goes with if natural disaster happen in Democrat and a Republican government, a Republican president is in power, must go all out to help the Republican state. It is natural disaster, and that is why they put money into FEMA. So when this such disaster happen, they will be able to get the resources. But Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, she put this in a better way, and I want y'all to take a listen.
Meant that part of the answer, in addition to reform, is removing FEMA from the Department of Homeland Security. Do you agree with his assessment?
I mean, I don't know that that's going to actually fix it. Obviously, Kristi Noem is way in over her head. To have her be the one that kind of has to oversee this and somehow comes up with this idea or is okay with the idea of putting someone over FEMA who does not realize that there is a such thing as hurricane season, who also says something as idiotic as it's not the federal government that does emergency management, seemingly not understanding exactly what FEMA stands for, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, right? So we definitely have a level of incompetence that honestly I don't know if moving or shifting to a different department is going to fix, because unfortunately it seems like the only qualifications that this administration has required of the average person to be in this administration is that they be a Fox News host, which ultimately is not a qualification whatsoever. But I can tell you that this idea that he would say things as he's down in Texas and pretend as if this is something that only happens once every 1,000 years or whatever kind of claim he tried to make as he was down in Texas. I'm not quite 1,000 years old, but I can tell you that in the 80s, this very same river had a significant flash flooding situation where we lost lives again. So the reality is that climate change is real. The reality is that we are going to continue to face emergencies, especially since, as we just got done with the big ugly bill, they are clawing back those things that would have hopefully started to cool this planet down, because they don't believe in science. The least that they could do is believe in helping American people. Unfortunately, we continue to see Republicans decide that they want to bury their constituents instead of actually doing everything that they can to make sure that they live amazing and full lives.